Alright, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the Vancouver Canucks and what their roster is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. In a previous video, we talked about what our lineup's going to be looking like in the 2019-2020 season, and then someone left a comment. It is actually Barca Ballistic, so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He actually said maybe I should do a video talking about the Vancouver Canucks and what they're going to be looking like in the future. And considering the Vancouver Canucks are a team full of young talent, I thought this would be a very interesting topic to go over because, of course, you know, it's pretty interesting because when you have a team like Vancouver who has a lot of budding superstars, a team that's going to see a lot of internal growth that doesn't require, obviously, outside trades and any more drafting, a lot can happen within this young team. But anyways, guys, let's just take a look at my predictions and keep this with a very fine grain of salt, guys. Obviously, the lineup, you can say this player should go there. This is a very rough mock draft. It is very hard to predict what a team is going to look like, in the future when obviously we don't know if stuff actually happened. So again, these lineups don't mean anything. In fact, the only lineup I would say is probably pretty accurate would be the first line. But other than that, it's really anyone's guess. But anyways, here are my predictions for, I guess, would be, what would that be? Let's just say the 2023-2024 season, say that 10 times fast. Here they are. So, of course, like I just mentioned before, the Vancouver Canucks are full of great young prospects. Whether that's, young talent on the team like Pettersson, Boeser, Horvat, Hughes, Jet Wu, or, prospects that haven't made the NHL yet like Podkolzin, Hoglander, Madden. There's lots of guys here. And obviously, guys, this does not take in consideration, obviously, future drafts or future trades or future free agent signings. So on the first line, we have Vasily Podkolzin, Elias Pettersson, and Brock Boeser. Now, to be honest, guys, if Podkolzin does turn out to be a very good top 6 forward, like he projects to be, this might just be one of the better lines in the NHL. And I'll explain why. I'll start with Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser is a guy, he's had his injuries, but he's definitely a guy that can accomplish a 40-goal season. I think that's really realistic and very accurate. On the tail end, I think Brock Boeser scores 30-35 goals, but if all things are going well and injuries do not occur, especially playing alongside of Pettersson, 40-goal seasons are realistic for Brock Boeser. Elias Pettersson, on the other hand, something that's kind of underrated. I don't know if it's underrated still, but Pettersson is a guy who has just as good of a release, just as good of a shot than a guy like Brock Boeser. Pettersson is really such a complete centerman, amazing shot, just unbelievable vision, passing, but also plays a strong defensive game. But Pettersson is also a guy that can put up 40 plus goals. This past season, in his rookie season, even when he was injured, he still put up 28 goals, and that is with very little support. So just right there, between Pettersson and Boeser, we have around 80 goals of talent. And then, if Podkolzin kind of reminds me of like a role player. If you guys are familiar with basketball, a role player is kind of a player that can be put in any situation, depending on the team's needs. Podkolzin is exactly that guy. He's very well-rounded. He has a very good compete level, so even if you put him in a role he may not be completely comfortable with, he will still put 110% into every shift. Podkolzin is a guy that's full of skill, great shot, great passing ability, and he's definitely a guy that, I can see putting up 30 plus goals. Obviously, he's still hasn't played a game in the NHL, so that's a pretty big prediction. But if he does pan out, he can be a 30-goal guy. So Podkolzin is a 20-30 goal guy. Pettersson is a 40-goal guy. Boeser is a 40-goal guy. That is a very deadly line. Very deadly. And again, if they all pan out and things keep progressing and obviously a lot of growth still occurs, this could be one of the better lines in the NHL. On the second line, we have JT Miller, Bo Horvat, and Nils Hoglander, kind of a wild card. Obviously, JT Miller's just a very solid two-way guy. He can put up 50-60 points, good defensive game, plays with some grit, so he's a very ideal second-line guy. Horvat, I was going to mention in the last video, but I kind of got distracted. I distracted myself. But Horvat is a guy who has never really had great supporting pieces. And even with that being said, Horvat still puts out great production. He almost had a 30-goal season last year. And if Horvat actually has some really good wingers, he's a guy I would not be surprised if he could put up, around 70 points. This past season, he had around 60 points. 70 points is not out of the question, especially with some better supporting pieces. Nils Hoglander, of course, it's pretty hard to predict Nils Hoglander, but I think he can be a solid top 6 forward. He has a good shot, great skater, plays with grit, just an excellent all-around player. Hoglander, I could see being a 50-60 point guy if he does pan out. And I guess something else I should mention is Podkolzin is a guy that plays with a lot of grit, a guy that, has obviously demonstrated in the past many times. He sticks up for his teammates. He's actually a really good leader. But for the second line, very solid. If Miller is a 50-60 point guy, Horvat is around 70 point guy, and Hoglander does reach that 50 point mark. Very solid second line that has some good offensive upside, but again, great two-way game. On the third line, we have Tanner Pearson, Adam Gaudette, and Jake Virtanen. Now, again, this is a very good line. Pearson's a guy that can put up around 20 goals. Adam Gaudette, kind of a wild card. We don't know exactly what to expect, but I think he is a guy that can put up between 30, 35 points. That's pretty realistic. And then we have Jake Virtanen, a guy a lot of people, claim as a bust. I think he's actually a pretty good secondary scorer. Obviously, he's not living up to the potential of where he was picked in the 2014 draft. But in terms of a solid secondary scorer, Jake Virtanen's, he's a solid guy on the third line. I think any team could use a Jake Virtanen in the bottom six. And then on the fourth line, this is kind of confusing because Michael Ferland, he may not be a Canuck by then. Tyler Madden, we still have not seen a single NHL game. And then we have Sven Baertschi, whose injuries may really hurt him, and he may not be in the NHL. This line is kind of a complete, obviously question mark, but Ferland, he plays a good bottom six role. Madden has a lot of skill. I have no clue where Madden's going to go. And then Sven Baertschi is good at bottom six scoring. And again, guys, please take this lineup with a grain of salt. In the other category, we have Nikolai Goldobin. We don't really know what's going to happen with him. And then William Lockwood, who's looking like a potential decent secondary scorer. On defense, we have Quinn Hughes and Jet Wu. Quinn Hughes, of course, in my opinion, is the future defenseman of our whole team. Obviously, unbelievable skater, great offensive upside. And with Podkolzin, Pettersson, Boeser, Horvat, and Hughes, that is going to be a nasty power play. And then we have Jet Wu. So, like I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Jet Wu. I think he plays a very good game. And if his game transitions from juniors into the NHL, I think he can be a pretty solid defenseman in the NHL. Of course, on the top two, that's a very questionable, but the Vancouver Canucks at the moment don't have a lot of defensive prospects. Hughes, Juolevi, and Jet Wu are their main prospects, and so based on what I have in their depth charts, those are the guys I believe are in the top two. On the second line, we have Juolevi and Tyler Myers. Juolevi, again, is another guy that people claim to be a bust. I don't really understand that. He still hasn't played a single game in the NHL. Not only that, is he's a defenseman. I also believe he's only 21, so, there's still so much development for Juolevi. And he is looking like a solid top four defenseman. He put up really good production in Liga. And then right before he got injured, he was actually putting up pretty decent production on a really weak Utica Comets blue line. And then, of course, we have Tyler Myers, a solid top four defenseman. And then on the third line, we have Nikita Triumkin. Very big wild card, but to be honest, guys, a lot of you guys think it is very unreasonable to think that he's going to be on the team, but who knows? Vasily Podkolzin, his fellow Russian brother, is joining the team. Who knows, though? I think there actually is a decent shot he returns to the NHL. Let me know what you guys think. And then on the right side, we have Troy Stecher, one of my favorite players on the Canucks. And sorry for spelling his name wrong in the last video. You know who you are, who commented on my video. He got very mad at me. All in all, though, our defensive blue line, not bad. I still think it's missing a top two defenseman here to play along Hughes. But again, decent defensive core. I don't know if it's a championship blue line. Who knows, because there's a lot of development to be taking place. But pretty solid defensive line and pretty solid forward core. And then in net, we have Demko, Markstrom, and Mikey DiPietro. Demko, again, future elite starting goaltender. Markstrom is really proving his worth as a starting goaltender. And then Mikey DiPietro, Mikey had a pretty rough time in his first NHL game against the San Jose Sharks. I can't blame the guy, but I still think he does have a lot of upside. But overall, we have a pretty strong goalie core heading into the future. I think, again, the more interesting case would be whether we're able to sign Demko and Markstrom to obviously lengthy terms. Markstrom's contract ends next season, and then Demko the following season. But anyways, guys, what do you think about my predictions? I know, again, guys, keep it with a grain of salt. I think the Vancouver Canucks, and this doesn't even involve any future drafts or any future trades or any future UFA signings, but overall, I think this is a pretty solid roster. I really like the Vancouver Canucks top six. Podkolzin, Pettersson, Boeser, Miller, Horvat, Hoglander. That just sounds awesome. The defensive blue line I still think is missing a top two defenseman, but if Hughes, Wu, Juolevi all pan out, and then Triumkin returns to the NHL, this is a pretty solid defensive blue line. This blue line is not bad. But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're over 1,000 subscribers, guys. Just crazy. See you guys later.